Today we will be interviewing Mr. Mayur Sontake, a man who owns the co-working space known as Nomad Gaon. I'm Urmit Bhandari.
I am Agarasko,
I'm Aryan Naikar.
and you are watching Dumb Shit Talks, where
Every person with a sizable audience and every social media celebrity is our real estate.
we
Okay,
don't
we don't
want
want them.
them, but we can interview them. So, hi Mayur.
Hi.
How's it looking?
Oh, it was tiring, man. I live right next. Not fun. Alan is a really bad neighbor.
Yeah, man, it makes me like.
Yeah, and he calls me uncle, so I think I'm not in his influencer zone.
No, you are an influencer, sir, but it's supposed to happen, so what can we do? I blame my aunties.
Startup remotely back in 2014. I left my corporate career because the startup offered me a job which I could do from anywhere. So I used the flexibility to travel around India and Southeast Asia. While doing so, I realized that there are no Indians who are doing this because a lot of people came in to me and told me that I was the first Indian digital nomad that they made. So I said one reason behind coming back to India, quitting travels and starting to run retreats was to inspire more Indians to be digital nomads. And the other reason was to make India popular among people from around the world who wanted to travel and work. That was the inspiration to start Nomad Gaon.
That's really insightful.
And I guess that's where the Nomad Gaon comes from, home for all the digital nomads and stuff. So where did the name come from and what does it signify for you?
Yeah, so I believe that people don't need to go to big cities for career anymore with remote work around. I'm not a big fan of big cities because they're crowded, polluted, the quality of life sucks. So I've spent quite a lot of time over the last 5-6 years in villages. So I lived in a village in Himachal for about a year. So that feeling of Gaon is something that I associate with. I feel that I belong to smaller places, smaller communities. So when I started Nomad Gaon, the idea was to create a Gaon for digital nomads where everyone knows everyone. It also came from Asagaon and just a little pun.
Aryan, I owe you $2.
Just a little pun there as well. Like when we started, we said, okay, this is not a big city like Madgaon, so it's no Madgaon.
Wow.
That is the coolest pun I've ever heard.
It's a really well thought out pun as well. It's like layers to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you mentioned digital nomad, and you also mentioned about how Indians aren't really digital nomads by nature. And that reminds me of something. Now, when the work from home phase initially started, do you think that negatively impacted our working culture?
I think there was a learning curve definitely. Like our managers are not equipped to handle the remote teams, or even people don't know how to be productive while working remotely. And what pandemic has got us is not remote work. People are basically stuck to their houses, and it's just work from home. And work from home is just a tiny part of the entire remote work universe, right? Because if you're working remotely, you could work from cafes, you could work from co-working spaces, you could work from the beach. And people have not done any of this in the last 1.5 years. They have been stuck to their houses with so many people around, a lot of distractions around. So I feel, people are learning to deal with this, and once travel reopens and we get back to normal life, people would, those who have the liberty to continue working remotely, those who would explore newer ways of working, which includes working from Goa or from any other place for that matter.
I find that to be very true. I currently have a part-time job and it wouldn't be possible because the company I work for is based in Uttarakhand. if this work from home never established, and I literally had to go there to do it. And now I can do it at home.
That
It's opened
applies-
so many opportunities right now.
That applies to my cousin as well. My cousin's a IT professional in Bangalore. He used to work in Bangalore for a long time, but the past 1.5 years he's been working in Goa. And there hasn't been a significant drop in like productivity.
In fact, a lot of people tell me that their productivity has actually increased by working from Goa, because here they know that okay, they need to finish their work quickly so that they can go to the beach, they can go party, and so they put a lot more focused hours. Plus, they don't have to commute to go to a place of work, which also gives them a good kickstart of the day, right? Otherwise, if you're spending 1.5 hour traveling to work, you're losing half your energy and productivity out there.
And especially if many documentaries of an office, they completely criticize how much time and energy gets wasted just by commuting, because you're like, oh god, I have to be late for the train, I'll be late for the train. You're already negative, you reach the train late, you find a back seat, you're crushed. How can you do it?
And also working in the car, working in your home feels much more comfortable than in a
because you can literally
cubicle.
find anywhere you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, even for college students, because I travel from Kanka to Miramar for college, and even for college, you're ready for when you wake up in the morning, you're ready for the world. You're ready for the world, for college, for studies, for enjoying a little bit of time with badminton. But the moment you sit into a bus, sit there for half to 1 hour, and then you change buses again, and you nearly get squashed because the Panjim to Miramar buses are just packed in the morning. And
Yeah, I feel the whole idea about going to some place to study or going to some place to work is outdated now, and the pandemic has taught us that we don't need to go to work. Work will come to you if you are good enough.
But our teachers want allowed because people are very bad.
Okay, speaking of which, we've talked about NomadGao, and something I'd like to ask is NomadGao a community, or is it a business, or is it a website, a blog? What do you want it? What is it for you, and what do you want it to be in?
It's all of it combined together. It's a business of belonging. So of course, community is at the heart of it. The community is basically a diverse community of professionals, freelancers, entrepreneurs. Then, of course, to sustain this community, NomadGao has to make enough money. Otherwise, it's not a social service, right? So it's a business in that sense. Then we are also educating a lot of people on remote work and through our blog, and trying to build YouTube channel, although it's pain in the ass.
Every YouTuber.
So yeah, if you ask me what NomadGao is, it's a platform which enables people to be digital nomads, enables people to meet like-minded people, or enables people just to live differently, for that matter.
Who are your clientele? Because I know that when we were talking beforehand, you mentioned that some co-working cafes are owned by particular companies, not necessarily that only their employees can work there. Is yours
Yeah,
something
so
like that?
there are a lot of different subgroups in this. So when we started, we were exclusively for digital nomads. So initially we had mostly foreigners with just a couple of Indians in the first 6 months. Then pandemic happened and everyone started working remotely. So we started getting a huge flow of Indians who were doing this for the first time in their lives because the pandemic forced them to do so. So we started hosting Indians, professionals from Google, Amazon, Flipkart, Facebook, then freelancers, also a lot of entrepreneurs, startup founders. Now a lot of teams, because a lot of startups and companies are going remote. That also means the team doesn't meet at one place frequently, right? So they need a place where the team can come together once in a while to brainstorm on ideas, to work together.
I wish we had that.
Yes.
So now we are hosting a lot of teams who want to just come together once in few months and collaborate. So if you ask me, clientele, it has been shifting over the past 2 years, and with international flights about to start again on 15th November, I think we'll have another change coming in. But as a startup, we need to be nimble and we need to be ready for change, right? So the clientele will keep changing and we need to be ready for it.
Here's a spur of the moment question: like, how difficult is it for startups to work? Because we hear the word startup every now and again, and most of the time either it's like when it's a completely huge flop or worse, a scam, or whether it's like a humongous success. So like but we don't get to understand what the whole thing with startups is. So can you just shed a little bit of light on that?
See, startup is nothing, right? Like long ago also people started new businesses. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. So I feel startup is just a fancy term. It's just sexy, fine, starting a new business. Of course, there is there is a lot of capital available out there. So some of it goes to startups or ideas which will do well in the future. Some of it is just trial and error. So if you look at it, maybe 10 to 20% of the funded startups ultimately do well. The rest of them either vanish or just survive.
It's basically like you wake up with a brilliant idea and you think, well, I think I have the sufficient financial means to pursue it. That basically makes a startup.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's not just about having just one idea one fine night in a dream, right? Sometimes it could be a journey over the years, and then you arrive at the idea. For example, for Nomadgao, it's my journey since 2014 that ultimately led to me starting Nomadgao in 2019. So it really depends on. It's very important to know why you are doing what you are doing when you are doing a startup.
That reminds me of another question. Now, typically when we work in co-working spaces, you're not going to get the same kind of professional. So if you get a professional in the IT sector, you might get a professional in the science sector, or even an artist. So do you think like everyone coming together, it actually allows for more collaboration?
Definitely. So interestingly, right now we have a lot of consultants. Then there is a physicist doing a postdoc research on black holes, getting information out of black holes for that matter. Then there are a lot of artists, yoga teachers, musicians, and all of them being part of the same community means everybody learns from each other, right? If they are doing the same thing, they'll just keep talking about the same stuff. But because it's a diverse community, everybody learns from each other again. It's also about keeping your work and life separate. If let's say there are only a bunch of programmers out there, no matter what time of day it is, they'll keep talking about coding and stack and stuff, right? But because there are people from various backgrounds, they don't necessarily talk about work all the time. So they chill, they share, and they have fun.
I think that's really interesting because we all know that India is a huge melting pot of diverse cultures and all. I think this Nomadgao is just a microcosm of all that.
I'm humbled by that comparison. Trying to be. Let's hope it gets somewhere. But so the community at Nomadgao is basically something. I feel that because we are basically targeting all high quality professionals or entrepreneurs or freelancers, I think the kind of diversity and the kind of talent you'll meet in a place like Nomadgao is unmatched, because there's so much learning out there that you can just go and talk to anyone and grab the knowledge. which doesn't happen anywhere else, right?
Now you mentioned you traveled to Southeast Asia when you left your corporate job. Now, how did your travel over there affect the outlook that you had on things?
So my travel to Southeast Asia was an eye opener, to be precise. Before really starting to travel long term, yes, I love to travel, but then my whole idea about traveling was very different from what it is now. So when I started traveling, I started a blog called 50 by 50 with a goal that I'll basically have, travel to 50 countries by the time I turn 50. Then during traveling, I realized that it's not about number of countries you travel, but it's about number of cultures you feel you are a part of, right? Then I started traveling slow. I spent few months at a place. In Thailand, I spent 4 months. In Indonesia, I spent 3 months. In Vietnam, I spent over a year. So I don't think I'll achieve 50-50, or I may if I go to Europe and on a package to cover 15 countries in 15 days. So the point is, traveling is, once you start traveling, as Ibn Battuta said,
I think the quote was somewhat like, the more you travel, the more stories you have to tell.
yeah, I don't clearly remember.
Yeah.
Okay,
Prove it
something
and then
like
it's-
this. Travel leaves you speechless, and then it turns you into a storyteller.
Okay, Ruby did not need it. Okay, but this is one thing I find interesting because I've been to a lot of motivational speeches, college demands, and we don't know why. And they always tell, young students, especially if they're under 21, travel the world before you're 26. Because even no matter how bad or good the experience is you're gonna have while traveling, it'll teach you something.
That's nice, but why do you have to put an age over it? It's like,
I don't know, ask every motivation speaker ever.
Yeah, but it makes sense, So with my kids also, I keep telling them that you should take a gap year and travel before deciding what you want to do with your life. So what happens in India is, particularly India, is we study so much till 25, 24, 25. We do bachelors and then some go for masters or MBA, and then we start figuring out what we really want to do in life, right? But if the process can be shortened, if you get to know earlier in your life what you want to do, you will save so much of time and money for yourself and your parents. So yeah, at 18, if I would have gotten a gap year, I think I would have been at a much better position myself. I would have saved a lot of time and money while trying to figure things out.
Now you got your answer. They aren't stupid according to you. Okay, so let's move on to what could be considered the last question. So, in our talks and actually in this podcast in general, I've noticed that you hold freelancers in a high regard. So, what's your opinion on how underrated they are?
In India, freelancers are not valued as much as they should be. But I think it's changing. Gig economy is the future, especially after pandemic. Companies are reluctant to hire permanently. At the same time, there are so many new skills coming up that it's very difficult to keep track of those if you're a full-time employee at a company, right? Because you need to keep upgrading yourself. And I think freelancers, because they are in that anxiety zone, right? Because they get paid by an hour or for the tasks that they do. So they are in better position to keep themselves updated about what's happening and new trends and stuff. So I think gig economy is going to have a bright future hereafter. There are a lot of platforms for freelancers, India-focused platforms for freelancers coming up. That doesn't mean I don't value employees working at a company. I feel that hard work is something that is beyond the definition of being a freelancer or being an employee. Hard work is, it's basically your personal set of values and stuff. And either you're a freelancer or a employee at a company, you need to have those values if you want to succeed.
I think the most important thing about freelancers for companies is that because a freelancer can choose what he wants to do, more or less, it kind of means that he'll be putting his best effort into it. So you get quality, and that's the best thing for a company.
I think it's a bit romanticized. Sometimes freelancers don't have a choice but to do because the clock is ticking, right?
Yeah.
You have to make money, you have to pay your bills. But so I know freelancers who earn in, who charge their clients like $300, $400, $500 an hour. So it's all about building skills and building your profile to get you there.
So yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
joining
much
us.
for joining us. Yeah.
It's my pleasure that you.
It's really, the impact that you might have left our guests with after listening to this. You can't imagine how big it is.
And here's the thing, even though you're still technically kind of doing a corporate like job, it's not really corporate because you've left your corporate job, which was, which is like what society expects, and you've started something like basically something that was work from home, but not exactly work from home, remote work.
Yeah, you're natural society's misfit.
You were ahead of the curve, in other words.
Yeah.
Just plain lucky. That's in other word.
Yeah, we're happy that no auntie poached you.
And with that, that's Dumb Shit Talks signing out. My name is Arvind Maikar.
Garasco,
I'm Mithun Bhandari.
signing off. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.